In this video, I'd like to talk to you about the importance of unlearning. We are all familiar with learning. Since we were kids, we went to school and people started to throw information at us and tell us what's important to remember, right? And this is the kind of learning process that we are all used to. But as adults in today's um, fast-paced world, I think learning is a skill that we have to develop, nurture, and ultimately rediscover for ourselves. It's an intimate journey of discovering, in the end, how we can get to grasp with the world's unfolding, right? With all these events, with the AI disruptions, with our role in the market, in the economy, how we can become more and more valuable with time, not less and less valuable, because we would, eventually get disrupted by AI and so on. So for me, learning is one of my main preoccupations, because you see, we are not lacking information these days. I think it's easy to just lose yourself into learning about stuff that ultimately doesn't give you anything in return. And that's not necessarily a bad thing if you enjoy learning about something, if you are passionate about that thing. But as a professional, as a parent, as someone that wants to become more and more relevant and um, ultimately be replaceable in the marketplace, you want to be able to provide the kind of value that no one else can provide. And that's why I think unlearning is a better skill to develop, because it forces you to think about those elements which are only specific to you and that only you can really articulate better maybe than anyone else, or in a different way than anyone else. What makes you you? What makes you much valuable or different or better in terms of skill set or traits or capabilities than any other human being? And maybe that's a bit of a stretch for most to think, okay, why do I need to be so special? Why do I need to differentiate myself at that level? But you see, the more we evolve in this, world of like innovation, every single day there are new technologies that appear which disrupt dramatically the kind of human expertise that we relied on for the longest time during, during our evolution as a society in the past hundreds of years, couple of hundreds of years. Typically, we we were taught since we were kids that we need to become better, we need to become good at a certain skill set. We need to become either good at math, physics, computer science, and then find a job, or like an employer who values that kind of skill set and gives us a place to work in which we can go and just just put in the hours and just like deliver value based on the kind of capabilities that we gather. I think in the future it will be very difficult to keep the same kind of philosophy in the educational system, because this kind of specialized knowledge, this kind of technical expertise will get more and more disrupted and will be easily replaced by more intelligent agents, artificial agents, who are very specialized at doing one thing. And that thing, irrespective if someone did it for 20 years or 25 years or even more, um, will get to be executed much better, much faster, and most importantly, much cheaper by an equivalent intelligent agent, artificial agent. So we have to think about our own capabilities and what makes us different from this kind of intelligent algorithms that can already today replace a lot of the human specific work that we traditionally thought can be only executed by humans. Even in the creative space, especially in the creative space. So I think today it's worth, instead of learning skills only for the sake of learning skills and knowing how to execute stuff, I think we should focus a lot on meta skills, like learning how to learn, learning what to learn, how to be efficient in finding the information that we need when we need it in real time, as close to real time as possible, how to apply filters that allow us to be more effective in retrieving the information. How much time should we waste until we get that very specific information? Can we employ artificial intelligence to point us towards the place where we can get that information much faster than we were able to do it before? Um, who should we trust? Right? That's also a very important element, because traditionally you you had like clear sources, um, and there was not a lot of um, confusion when it comes down to who created the artifact or the article that you inspired yourself from. Today, because information is ubiquitous and you find it everywhere, and everyone can create anything, it's very difficult to know what's the source of truth for whatever you are gathering, and if you should rely on that or not, if you should base your own reasoning, and if you should create your own beliefs out of something that is not easy to be verifiable, to be verified. So this kind of meta skills of thoughtful processing of information, it's something that we are not taught in school, for sure. In school, we are directed towards learning skills that the school system and the educational system projects to be relevant in the marketplace, for which we can be paid in order to do them. But at the end of the day, this kind of way of thinking is not allowing us to develop the kind of agency that we are responsible of developing for ourselves, so we can take ownership of our own development. Um, like I talked about unlearning. Why unlearning is so important? Because as new information comes, we most probably will get challenged on how we understood the concept. And it's very important um, to be always true to ourselves, and recognize when it's time to change our mind, in a way. Always be in service of truth instead of our own subjective interpretation, or our own reasoning about why we believe what we believe. And that goes against the human nature, ultimately, right? Being able to be flexible and confront your own understanding about a topic that you potentially are even appreciated by others to own or to master at a certain level, it's very difficult, right? Peter Attia mentioned something that at some point that I really love, in terms of how to approach new information and how to challenge yourself. And he says that it's best to have strong convictions, but hold them loosely, right? Which means that you are confident on what you know, but if new evidence comes, then you are always open to it, even if that will challenge the very thing that you believed so hard in, right? It doesn't matter what you believe to be true. If you are being proved that what you hold to be true is false, is not correct, we should always be able to change our own beliefs, ultimately, recognize the truth, and assume it and acknowledge it, with the immediate implications of potentially being seen or perceived by others as not, uh, you know, not being reliable, or not, or because we changed our mind and so on. It doesn't really matter. What's important is that you take decisions in your life against beliefs that are as close to the truth as possible, because otherwise you are just delusional, right? We are anyway very difficult. It's very difficult for us to know the truth in the end. And in our lives, we are always seeking to find the truth. And there is also like, it's called the scientific method, right? The very progress of humanity um, was possible because we basically tested hypotheses. We imagined something, we hypothesized some experiment, then we executed it, then we saw the outcome of it, and then we saw, okay, does this validate my initial assumption or not? If it validates my initial assumption, then we consider this to be true, right? If not, then my assumption was false because reality showed me something else. And this is how we learn stuff in the world. Basically, we are just exploring and testing and making hypotheses and projections, and we test, we measure, we test, we measure results, and based on that, we change our understanding because new evidence shows us that our maybe original understanding is wrong. And the very fact that society progresses is due to this kind of open, non-attached um, perspective when it comes down to looking at the world and poking with reality, right? We are just figuring it out in the end. As we go along, new scientific discoveries will continue to appear, but we have to stay true to the discovery itself, not to whatever beliefs or stories that we created in our mind, and attach that to our identity and hold them dear to our soul. Right? It doesn't matter ultimately what you believe to be true. It matters because it gives you confidence and it allows you to have a good understanding of the world in your subjective way, but ultimately you always have to be open to learn new things, because if you are always closed and trying to protect what you know what to be true for yourself, even if that's not absolutely true, then you are very fragile, right? There's this concept of growth mindset versus fixed mindset. Fixed mindset is where you believe that um, you are already complete in terms of capabilities, in terms of understanding, in terms of potential of evolution, and now you have to protect that, right? Whereas growth mindset acknowledges the fact that we learn as long as we live, and because we continue to be open and curious and challenge ourselves, this enables the growth in the end. The very fact that we are always open and curious and um, and operating in the world with this kind of beginner's mind, if you want, this childlike curiosity, which is unburdened by um, the rigid appearance of a so-called expert who knows everything. And because I'm an expert, you have to respect me and you have to do what I'm telling you to do. And this is like a very old, rigid way of navigating in the world. It worked before because things were not prone to be disrupted at the pace of today. And things, when discovered, they tend to stay like that, unchallenged for a long time. And people started to build expertise against a more or less static way of describing the field of their expertise. But today, everything is changing very, very fast. And in technology, which is my own field of expertise, um, I see that there is no way to be able keep to keep up the pace with every small tool or project that gets created, because there are like hundreds or thousands. And it's frightening at the beginning because I felt that I have to be able to follow everything in order to make sure that I don't miss anything important. But that's not possible because more people with open source technology and immediate access to high quality projects, they can basically develop things in a matter of minutes sometimes. And you cannot always know everything, but you can always anticipate how things will progress, and how I can contribute myself as a human being and as a professional towards something valuable for someone who is ultimately willing to pay for my expertise, and how that expertise evolves in itself. Is that expertise purely related to my own technical capabilities and my own understanding and my abilities to build or create stuff by myself? No, that kind of expertise has to evolve as well. And I have to be able to think more creatively, to think more about the unique problem that, let's say, the client that I'm trying to help has, and look at the problem from all sorts of different angles, because I know that there are virtually an infinite number of solutions to their problem. But if I don't identify the problem in a very, very specific way, then I might propose a solution which is not, let's say, ideal, right? Which is suboptimal. So the more time I spend creatively in thinking about the problem, in thinking about the potential impact of that problem on the business, on the growth of the company, how is that problem actually impacting them on the long run in the context of their business evolution, in the context of the industry evolution, in the context of technology disruptions and evolutions and so on. If I don't take everything into context, then I am simply looking at the problem from my own narrow focus of, I know this technology, I know how to fix it in this way, then it must be like this. So I will just propose this, right? It's not working like that. Um, Today we have to be very open, and we have to be able to challenge our own expertise and our own understanding, even if this conflicts directly to what we knew to be true 5 years ago, or even if it conflicts directly with what we were valued against 5 years ago in terms of actual contribution to the business or to our employer. So this is something that I think a lot about, because for sure it will, I mean, as we go along, the 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 um, the innovations and the pace of disruption will not slow down. It will only accelerate. It will only exacerbate, and and I anticipate that more and more people will have a tough time finding themselves in this new reality and positioning their own capabilities and expertise in an industry which doesn't value that much anymore their core competencies, right? As it used to happen in the future, in the past. Because today, purely technical expertise, purely technical capabilities, without creative thinking, without problem solving mindset, can be easily offloaded to an intelligent algorithm, right? Which again is much cheaper, right? Can work without holidays, 24 hours a day, and because it works and it learns from its own mistakes, it can also become much, much better, right? So, how we as human beings in sectors which are targeted and directly, impacted by this kind of pace of change, how can we stay relevant? This is something, I think, the kind of introspection that everyone has to do for themselves. I shared with you my thoughts on why learning is something that we have to rediscover for ourselves, why unlearning is an underrated skill, in my opinion, because what was true 5 years ago, it's not maybe true now, and you have to unlearn the skill that took you here, because what took you here won't take you there. So focus more on meta skills, on learning how to learn, learning what to learn, how to become better at learning, what kind of filters to apply, how to get to the solution in a more creative way, in a much better way, and how basically to switch from problem fixing in problem finding. So that's a very important thing, and I've been struggling with it a lot, and I'll end at this. But as an engineer, as someone and a man, as I am typically jumping to conclusions much faster than I should, because I am looking at something, I apply a pattern based on my own expertise and my understanding of the problem, and then I tend to just come with the solution fast to alleviate basically the pressure, right? To provide some relief. Okay, it looks like this, then we have this, and but I have now to switch this, to break this, to catch myself when I have this tendency, and spend time in looking at the problem, in trying to understand the problem from a different angle, and really investigate, um, at different layers, what are the implications of applying or not applying a certain solution, right? And spend a lot of time from all sorts of different angles of looking at it, and then compare and contrast in a lot of different ways, and test also whenever possible, so as when I actually propose something, when I go into fixing mode, then there are basically not a lot of choices available anymore, right? So I know that I narrowed down the solution to the best solution possible that I'm capable of thinking about, because I took time in um, in um, in narrowing down the problem and identifying exactly why my solution is a best fit, right? So I wish you luck, and yeah, happy learning, I guess, right? Don't forget to don't forget to unlearn also from time to time. That's a very important skill. I It takes me a lot of energy to realize that most of the things that I knew 10 years ago are not maybe very relevant today, or I have to look at them differently. But that's the game. That's a challenge, and it's exciting. So enjoy.